Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. It's now time to take a look at news stories making headlines around the globe. We begin in Nigeria, where a change of guard has been effected in Imo State. Hope Uzodinma, governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, has now been sworn in as governor. The Chief Judge of Imo State, Justice Pascal Nadi, administered the oath of office on the governor-elect at a ceremony attended by APC's National Chairman, Adams Oshiomhole, and the former governor of Imo State, Senator Rochas Okorocha, at the Heroes Square Arena in Owerri, the state capital. Earlier in Abuja, the Independent National Electoral Commission issued a certificate of return to Senator Uzodinma in compliance with the Supreme Court ruling. Speaking to newsmen at INEC's headquarters in Abuja, Uzodinma dedicated his victory to God and functional judiciary, in quotes, of the country. In his words, "We owe this victory to God Almighty. We owe it to a functional judiciary, that our judiciary is working and the Supreme Court works to expectation." Uzodinma said the challenge before the APC and himself as the governor is to ensure that the reasonable expectations of people are not dashed. Meanwhile, the ousted former governor, Honorable Emeka Ihedioha, had earlier in the day directed all members of the Imo State Expanded Executive Council and all political appointees to write their handing over notes and return all government properties in their custody. In a statement, Ihedioha said he will not be party to pilfering of government property or funds. He said although he thinks the judgment of the Supreme Court is unfair and unjust, as a true Democrat, he has no option but to respect it. Meanwhile, President Buhari has commended the Supreme Court for what he calls its courage and perseverance to return a well-deserved victory to the All Progressives Congress and its candidates in the Imo State governorship contest. A 7-member panel of the Apex Courts, led by Chief Justice Tanko Mohammed, on Tuesday cancelled the election of Emeka Ihedioha of the People's Democratic Party, PDP, as governor of the state and declared the APC candidate, who came fourth in the March 9th governorship poll, as the winner. So that brings us up to date with the happenings in Imo State. But I wonder if there was a moment of awkwardness in the crowd when the new governor, Hope Uzodinma, gave his speech and announced that he'll be probing 3 past governors, including Rochas Okorocha, who was in the crowd. I wonder how that went down. So much for APC coming together as this jubilant, the conquering victors. This new governor is still going to carry on this probe, which Ihedioha had started to do. So apart from that, I do appreciate the note of sort of the gracefulness. He took a philosophical note. This is the ousted governor, Ihedioha, and I'm glad that this shows some kind of growing maturity in Nigeria. We've noticed this trend. No matter how devastating the defeat is at the Supreme Court, nobody starts to incite their supporters to violence. We saw that when Atiku lost at the Supreme Court, and this has continued with the former governor, Emeka Ihedioha, and long may it last.
Well, I think there are many dimensions to this. I don't know how much time we have. Yesterday, we were very cautious. We were saying that, look, as persons who respect the rule of law and the integrity of the judiciary and the special place of the Apex Court in the justice administration process, we would like to at least wait until we see the details of the ruling. Up to this moment, I don't know whether you have seen the judgment of the 7-man panel that removed Emeka Ihedioha as governor and replaced him with Hope Uzodinma. And I think that that is a problem. And we can say that as at this moment, the fact that the Supreme Court, has chosen to give its reasons, its full arguments later on, I don't think it's a very good thing. Because if you have a situation whereby the people begin to express doubt about, the wisdom or the decision of the Supreme Court, that in election matters in the long run could derail the people's confidence in the judicial process. I would have loved to see a situation whereby, Supreme Court justices do not often come around and say, oh, we will give our reasons later, or the judgment will be provided later. Whatever the excuse, excuse may be, either trying to beat the limit, the time limitation, or trying to say, well, I mean, this is what we can do at this time. Because what then happens is that public opinion will go ahead of the decision of the Supreme Court justices.
They don't care.
And that is what we have seen in this particular case, where there's so much speculation, analysis, in the public domain as to how exactly the Supreme Court justices, the 7-man panel in this case, arrived at that decision. And I think it's something that may be of interest to the National Assembly to take a look at the enabling processes, and also for the court of CJN Mohammed Tanko, to also apprise itself of this concern from the public. What have we seen in the last 24 hours? Questions have been raised. One, about whatever arithmetic formula that the Supreme Court justices use, because what is in the public domain is that by the time you add up the results from the 388 units, you will get the polling units, you will get the impression that in the calculation of the Supreme Court justices, that Hope Uzodimma won all the votes, whereas it's from the Olu zone. And there's at least one other candidate from the Olu zone, even if we're talking about a stronghold. Is it possible for him to have taken all the votes from the 388 polling units? And in any case, even if that is the case, by the time you add it up, you have a larger number of voters being presented by the Supreme Court. Does it mean that every voter turned out in every polling unit and in those 388 polling units? So a lot of questions have been raised, and everybody is still looking forward, in spite of all of this, to the argument, to the basis for the ruling by the Supreme Court. The second point, of course, is that, look, justice must not only be done, it must also be seen to have been done. And I think that in this particular case, many Nigerians, from what I have read in the last 24 hours, do not think that justice has been done. However, the Supreme Court is not infallible because it is final. It is final because, yes, as they say, because it is not because it is infallible. So that's that with regard to the Supreme Court. The second leg of it is that, yes, you are right, Emeka Ihedioha has been very gracious, but he also made the point that he doesn't think that justice has been done. Yeah. He doesn't think that the Supreme Court has been fair. But at the same time, he has been extremely gracious. His wife has also, according to reports, also tried to encourage him. As for Hope Uzodimma and the APC, I don't think that they should see this as an opportunity for triumphalism.
Definitely
they should see it as an opportunity for reconciliation and for an opportunity to deliver. Uzodimma is talking about reconstruction, recovery, and rehabilitation. There is no reconciliation in his statement. And he says he will probe his predecessors. I don't think probe is the way to go.
And through his campaign,
he should be talking about hope, which is his name. He should be talking about service delivery. Whoever wrote that speech for him
did
not do too well.
Yes. Should I start off on that note?
It was also reported that he, through the director of his campaign organization, he's also ordered the freezing of all Imo State government accounts. Sorry about that. So it's one of those things where, like you said, where is the reconciliation in that? A peaceful transition is one thing, reconciliation is another. And it isn't necessarily something for the APC to jubilate about. It's actually something for them to take on themselves and say, okay, we now have this position. What do we do with it? We have to go forward and lead. And he has to just start with that and keep up that kind of momentum.
But I don't think we have seen the end of the story yet. There will be more interesting developments in Imo State. But we'll take a short commercial break, and when we return, the program will continue. It's still the morning show.
Welcome back to the morning show here on Arise News. Now to foreign news. In Washington, where it's been confirmed that an impeachment trial against President Donald Trump will begin on Tuesday after the articles of impeachment were formally delivered to the U.S. Senate. The House of Representatives voted largely on party lines in December for the impeachment trial, with 228 Democrats voting in favor and 1 Democrat joining the 192 Republicans who voted against. In a dramatic procession across the U.S. Capitol, Democratic House leaders marched the formal articles of impeachment to the Senate, setting the stage for only the 3rd trial to remove a president in American history. Just prior to the signing, Speaker Pelosi said the House was crossing the threshold of history.
Today, we will make history. When the managers walk down the hall, we will cross a threshold in history, delivering articles of impeachment against the President of the United States for abuse of power and obstruction of the House. As we make that history, we will be making progress for the American people, progress in support of our Constitution, progress in honor of the sacrifice and the vision of our founders, progress.
This is momentous. I mean, watching that the procession really gave it gravitas. Watching Nancy Pelosi sign on the parchment, it's huge, really, and it's embarrassing for President Donald Trump, who is in the middle of a re-election campaign. But what has happened now? Yes, the trial begins on Tuesday. It's expected to be 6 days a week, and so that means the Democratic senators in the race for the presidential race have to step down because attendance is mandatory. They have to pause their campaign. So that's Warren, Klobuchar, Sanders, and Bennett. They can't campaign in this period, which is a blow for them. Talking about witnesses, we're expecting former NSA Bolton, who President Trump sacked, and they had a bit of a Twitter back and forth. So I wonder what his testimony might be. And then Chief of Staff Mulvaney. And I'm also interested if the Republicans can get Joe Biden and Hunter Biden, because they want them to serve as witnesses as well.
Well, I think you are right. Yesterday was historic and momentous at the House of Reps in the United States. But even when the trial begins, officially, formally, on January 21, that will even be more momentous and more historic. What was done yesterday was that after a 4-week delay, Leila, you were concerned about the delay, and you were wondering whether Nancy Pelosi would not eventually send the articles of impeachment.
Well, she would have to eventually, but a delay is suggested.
But I said that, look, it will happen. Mm-hmm. But, you know, after a 4-week delay, we have not seen the articles of impeachment being sent to the Senate at 5 p.m. Eastern Time yesterday, and it's been received by Senator Mitch McConnell, the Senate Majority Leader. 3 things. Yesterday, the House of Representatives voted to pass a resolution on the articles of impeachment to appoint 7 managers, led by Adam Schiff, who was the lead investigator for the Ukraine investigation and chairman of the Intelligence Committee. So this panel of 7 will act as the prosecutors when the trial eventually begins in the Senate. Second, you know, approval was given for the funds for the trial process. And then 3, of course, the decision was taken to send the articles to the Senate. 2 issues, as we already know, abuse of power and obstruction of Congress. A number of people argued that, well, you know, maybe Congressman Amash, a former Republican who is now an independent and who was, you know, very articulate in, you know, arguing for impeachment should have been included. But then at the end of the day, you have a panel of 7 prosecutors. In the Clinton trial, before now, we had 13, but there's no limit to the number of impeachment managers that you can appoint. But what will happen in the Senate? As we have said on this program, it looks like the senators in general, they're going to have an issue of battle with their conscience, of conflict between, you know, following their mind and also being partisan, respecting the position of their party. John Roberts, the Chief Justice, would preside over the trial. He has given assurance that he will not try to intervene. He will only just be a presiding officer. And that's very important for us, you know, who live in countries where oftentimes there are complaints about the conduct of chief justices. But will President Trump be removed eventually? I doubt.
No.
More so as there's been no agreement on the procedure for the trial with regard to whether witnesses will be called or not. John Bolton, former National Security Advisor, has said that if he's called upon, he will be willing to you know, to give a testimony, to serve as a witness. But you know, the rules for the Senate trial have not been spelled out yet. There is no agreement on that. But who is the star of all of this? I return to where I started from. Nancy Pelosi seems to be the star, you know, because by delaying for 4 weeks, more information has come out, particularly with regard to Rudy Giuliani, you know, and one of his associates, Panas, and the role that Panas played, and how Maria Yovanovitch, the former ambassador to Ukraine, how she had been placed under surveillance and the role that Giuliani played in all of that. So at the end of the day, President Trump may not be removed because he has the advantage of numbers, and the senators have to struggle with their conscience. But at the end of the day, it will have been damaged in some sense.
For sure.
Yes.
Definitely. Let's head over to Aaron, who is here to give us the sports news and updates today. Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning, Leila. Good morning to
Good morning, Aaron.
Oh.
What's that? What was that all about?
Yes, with your look today. I want to say what that, Doctor. Good morning.
Good morning. What was all of that about Tuntun's appearance?
So she had the va-va-va-voom, if you understand what that
Just
means.
focus on your work, my friend.
Okay, let's get into it. The UK media has been going into overdrive since yesterday. This story has been 2 days in the works, and as the days have been going by, more details are being revealed. And let's tell you that Manchester City footballers flew in 22 Instagram models to Cheshire for a Bunga Bunga style party at a luxury hotel and spa resort. The women were flown over to Manchester on Sunday before checking into the Mare Golf Hotel and Resort in Knutsford prior to the team's match against Aston Villa that afternoon. The team beat Aston Villa 6-1, and it was thought that the party had occurred with the permission of manager Pep Guardiola. Fixers close to the club are believed to have organized the team bonding night, but it was not clear if Guardiola had been aware that the mothers were also in attendance. And it's been quite controversial because some section of the media are saying that Manchester City, their fixers, because this was supposed to be a belated Christmas party. And the questions are being raised that the Manchester City knowingly invite 22 ladies from Italy, because that's what the Italian press are actually. They were not around with this story initially, that 22 ladies are leaving Italy to come to England to party with Manchester City stars. It first started with 15. Later on, it was revealed that the numbers were actually 22. And some ladies, there was a report in The Sun this morning that said that one of the Manchester City stars' wife asked the question of one of the players why he went for a party and came in 7 a.m. in the morning. But it was clear that 22 ladies came from Italy to England in a Bunga Bunga style party
I don't know what your problem is.
No, this is
because you know the popular saying, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy.
Yes.
In 2018, let's conceptualize it.
Yes.
The players, this same Manchester City, they went for a Christmas party.
Yes.
Ahead of a match with Crystal Palace.
Yeah.
Then, you know, some of them over-enjoyed themselves. They didn't come early for training, and then they lost the match.
Yes.
So last year, the December 2019 party, Pep Guardiola insisted that there will be no Christmas party for them.
True.
Because there was a match ahead of them with Arsenal, right? So they missed the Christmas party in 2019. So this is supposed to be a make-up party for that December party.
The make-up party?
But the issue is that
the wives were not invited, the girlfriends were not invited.
The wives and girlfriends, they are protesting that they were not invited. But at the same time, I mean, don't hang a man for having a little fun, right? And then, have you seen the pictures of those ladies?
Yeah, the pictures of those,
including Miss Paul and her friend, and some of the other women.
The pictures of those ladies are just the worst. The worst. Because any wife, not being that any wife or girlfriend, or serious girlfriend of these players, seeing those pictures being published in papers in the UK, certainly
about their private life. You should look at and question, are you with someone that's serious? But then my own is, that's their own private whatever. They chose to have a party. They had a party. They still won their match.
Pep Guardiola approved.
6-1.
And there has been no report of any scandal.
No, but the question is this now, morality.
No, there's been no report of misconduct.
No, but
the
morality
only people that should be questioning the morality is the people involved in their personal lives that feel affected.
That if the club gave their consent to players to go and have infidelities of all kinds.
No, there's been no report of infidelity.
Because clearly some of them are
imagining
married.
it.
Some of the players are married.
That's infidelity, but there's definitely debauchery. It looks bad. And that whole bunga bunga phrase it's funny that these girls are Italian because it was made popular by Silvio Berlusconi,
Yes.
who used to have sex parties. So that phrase is not about a party, it's about a sex party.
Nobody has reported that anybody had sex.
Yeah, but it's a bit seedy.
The optics sound great.
Seedy,
exactly.
yes.
The optics sound great, but that's what they choose to do in their private
on the side of the wax.
No, I'm
always on the side of women. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I'm always on the side of women, but my own is, I just think that whatever they choose to do in their personal lives is what they choose to do in their personal lives. I personally can't sit down and question the morality of someone else.
Christmas parties are parties where you want to celebrate with your family and with your colleagues.
I'm sure they
and not with
Are you trying to say
22 Instagram models.
Are you trying to say none of them had Christmas with their families?
No, they
I'm not saying it's right.
Christmas parties. No Christmas
I don't think it looks good at all.
With the club sites are always synonymous with families and colleagues, not with 22 Instagram models being flown
What
in
did
the day
everybody
before.
really expect? This is what happens. You know, that's what I'm trying to say.
It's beginning to sound like a pastor.
I'm telling you, infidelity, the morality.
No, morality should always take the high ground and a bit of discretion if you want to do this. But if a club is going out to make this maybe a thing, because it behoves on the club to always take the moral high ground.
But, are you aware
well, they shouldn't call it bunga. Just call it a party. Because that bunga is
was
not
meant to be a kind of psychological tune-up for the players.
Yes, it was supposed to be another bond. It's supposed to be a bonding party, but a bonding retreat shouldn't involve Instagram models. Let me just put it
We'll
that way.
continue this off air.
Thank you, Aaron. That's all on the news headline.